Welcome, guys. Welcome to today's show. Today we got a slightly different topic, but hopefully it's also going to be informational for you guys, so you can learn something. As always, I got my brother here. Say
Hi,
hello,
everyone.
Lucas. And today's show, Lucas, maybe you want to tell people what it's all about?
Well, there's a lot of talk about, the sexual harassment that has, became apparent, that in terms of Harvey Weinstein and how he's been perpetrating, sexual harassment for the years, for decades now, and how he's been getting away with it. And so understandably, there's a lot of, talk about that. And, just like everyone, I was shocked, to find out. And, it's kind
Really?
of,
You didn't expect, you didn't think at all that...
well, I know there's some, I don't know. I mean, obviously it's not all angels working, anywhere in any industry for sure, including
Exactly.
the film industry. But at the same time, the fact that he was getting away with it, he was not really hiding so well, he was not discreet about it. So I was shocked that
Yeah.
he was, was doing these obscene things, other, not very being, and other people being witnessing to it, or other people had a very good idea what was happening behind the closed doors, at least.
Yeah.
And there were also so many victims, and he was always able to just cover it up, different methods, threats and so on. But he always, he would always get away with it. Anyway, that's not really the reason why we want to just talk about this today. Although this is obviously, something, I think it's something important to talk about, but other media outlets cover it already. So we'll talk. Well, for me, just after reading this whole Harvey Weinstein story, for me, what was really, I thought to myself, so difficult to to be successful in Hollywood, including as a producer. He was a producer. He's a producer, and I thought, well. You hear that, you want to succeed, you want to get along with people, you want to make friends everywhere and so on. And this guy was creating enemies, was treating women, and not just women, in a horrible way. So I thought, well, what did he have going for him? What were his skills that would overcome these big flaws in his character? And so that's why I read this, I've seen a bunch of videos and so on, online, but also read this interesting article from the Washington Post, and they talked about, again, the angle there was about the abuse, but they talk about the fact that he's it wasn't that he became powerful and then, he wanted to trade that power for sex. He was, right from the beginning, he was a sexual predator. He was harassing women sexually, right?
Oh, okay.
This was right from the beginning. So that's one thing that was surprising to me, because I guess you would assume that once you have power, you do that. But so he was doing it from the beginning.
I guess I'll kind of join in then and talk about, because I don't know that much about Harvey Weinstein, but I do. One thing I see, and I think that's what sometimes people miss, is that it's true that it's not maybe that power itself causes you to do bad things like this, but I think power is basically just it makes it easier. You like you kind of mentioned, Harvey maybe Weinstein already had those I guess those whatever. He had that personality, that character, but I'm sure that once you get into a position of power, that's really where things really go downhill. And that's the thing that I think anybody in any kind of position of power, and I'm not talking about obviously physical power, but any power of like this guy was in an industry power, somebody who's, I don't know, in politics, or somebody who's in military or something. Anybody, or even when you look at groups of people, I think throughout history, you will always see, people basically, or groups of people abusing other people once they get into power. You usually see that. And the reason is because when you have power over somebody, it's sometimes, I don't know, it's like this human condition. You want to test that out. You want to think, and you use that power for your own gain, right?
Because I think you do it because you can,
Yeah.
or you think you might get away. Also, I think people's ego grows and they think they're entitled somehow, or
maybe that's part of it. But I think
justified in their head.
But I think at the end of the day, I mean, we all want different things. We all want to achieve different things or get different things, right? And sometimes it might just be, money, right? Sometimes it might be, I don't know, a certain thing you want physically, or if you want to be with somebody, right? Or sex, anything, right? Anything like that, or just like so many wars are started, because literally one nation or one group of people, gets basically strong enough, and then they start conquering and their neighbors and all that stuff. Not because they should, but because they can, right? Because because that's what they think that's what they want, and I think that's the thing that happens, and I think that's also something to remember is that as bad as this guy is and all the stuff he did, he's not the only one. I mean, like I'm saying, outside of obviously Hollywood, right? Because there's more people I know in Hollywood now. Like I think Kate Winslet and a few other people came out and said that he's just like the tip of the iceberg. There's a thing I know, Corey Feldman, the guy who was a child actor in all the 80s movies. So he came out years ago already. He kind of been talking about it, that he was abused as a child in Hollywood, like a lot of pedophilia going on, like a lot of just and these are all obviously people in power. And he said that, that's the reason why, I guess, I don't know if he actually said that's the reason why his life went kind of down the toilet a little bit, problems with drugs and all that stuff. But I think that's the reason why a lot of also these, maybe that's the reason why a lot of these child actors, later on have problems. But, and oddly enough, not to defend anybody or whatever, because again, it's just accusations, but oddly enough, Corey Feldman, he said in an interview, like all these bad things about people in Hollywood, but then he said the only person that was really, like I guess in a position of power that was the nicest to him was Michael Jackson, when all the people were, I guess, accusing Michael Jackson and of all the things he did. So, so we don't know about that. But anyways, but at the end of the story, I guess like people, even outside of Hollywood and other things, it's just once they get in a position of power, they use that power to get basically what they want. And I mean, you see that, like I said, obviously with men, whether it's getting sex or other things, getting ahead in the industry. But I mean, you've seen that even with women, even like women, for example, using it to get, I don't know, to money or whatever out of other people or get in certain positions. You've seen it out of, different groups of people that band together and, like I said, Star Wars. So I think it's something to remember that anywhere, any time, whenever you, like I think yourself have to kind of constantly remind yourself, if you get in a position of power, whether it's in authoritative position at your workplace or whatever, you have to always remember, like, I would say maybe look at it from the point of view of back when you didn't have power, how you were and how you would have reacted, and I guess the kind of consequences that might come after you. Because even though you're in a powerful position like Harvey Weinstein, it can all come back to you, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bigger topic, but I guess power amplifies your flaws. Like if you have flaws, then you can get away with with a lot of things. Then it will become you will act more on your flaws. Anyway, so so with Harvey Weinstein, my understanding is, like from this one article, is that he was, like, when he was starting out, he finished university, or studied at the University of Buffalo. He didn't actually finish it.
So now, did he have, one question, he didn't have, like, as far as I understand, he didn't have any connections in the film industry or anything like that, right? Like, he was a Hollywood outsider, I guess, right?
He was nobody, right? Okay. So first he was started to do promotion for in the music, like for musicians and so on, right? So he already, like, supposedly people in that circle, in Buffalo, they knew that young women had to be really careful around Harvey Weinstein. He was already very aggressive towards women.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, anyway, so the idea, like, for me, the thing is that, okay, so this guy had again, was harassing people, was not, and then I guess the other thing is, the problem isn't that he just treated the women badly or harassed them sexually, but he was actually, overall, people who worked for him, they said they hated working for him. Like, he's just not he's a very difficult person towards men. He's abusive towards women and men, men.
Like, remember, I don't know if you remember that episode of Entourage, that TV show?
Yeah.
Where he was on it?
Oh, I don't remember that one.
Oh, okay. So there was an episode where Harvey Weinstein was actually on it, and there was actually, I think, a few episodes before that where they were building it up that he's going to be, I guess, that he was going to appear on it as himself, and they were basically portraying him as like the biggest dick, that he's like this and talks down to people and yells and he's got this rage, and that he was like, I don't know, ex-military, like saying all these horrible little things that I remember like myself, I watched it and I was like basically looking at you know, basically what was happening, like with the show, and I was like thinking to myself, there's at first I thought there's no way that this guy is like that. That's why they're probably making fun of it. Maybe he's the exact opposite, right? He's not aggressive, he's nothing. So they're trying to make fun of him in the show, kind of saying that that's how he is. But then I remember after the show, out of curiosity, I just like Googled and looked at some stuff, and yeah, there was already back in, and that was, I don't know, years ago when that show came out. And I remember like there were all these little, yeah, like people I guess in Hollywood, but little stories coming out about Harvey Weinstein like yells at a meeting or things like that, and I guess it was true, but at the same time, the fact that he was put on that show. And he was made, you know, like that was like the cool thing, that he was like this guy in Hollywood who got shit done, basically. That's kind of how they portrayed him. Was that, yeah, he was a dick and this and that, and he was rude to people, but you know what? He got shit done. And that's kind of how they portrayed him. So it almost made it look like many people in Hollywood, yeah, maybe knew, I don't know if they knew to the extent, that, you know, of what the things that he's done, but they knew that he wasn't the nicest person. But they also thought, well, but that's what makes him great. That's how I sort of got it.
Well, I mean, I guess success can cover up and, you know, excuse a lot of things. So I don't think people, were realizing how much sexual harassment was happening, but they knew that he was just an ass and like just treated people very badly generally. And because he could be, like, my understanding is he could be very sweet, and then he could just turn and become, you know, like, just, you know, lose control and just, you know, be angry and aggressive, and sometimes he physically attacked men and so on. So
so do you think that's what, in a way, attributed to his success?
No. So but again, it's just thinking about, again, so this guy, he comes, you know, he's a nobody. He comes from this, you know, middle class family, you know, no connections, no nothing. And how does he succeed despite being a jerk to people, right? Yeah. Like in this, you know, like if you want to advise people how to succeed in Hollywood, you will say, well, treat everybody well, like make friends, make alliances.
That's right? What I would say, yeah.
And then he was a jerk to people, right?
Yeah.
So how did he succeed? And then just reading that, based on that Washington Post article, two things I took out of it was that he was very, and those two things that I guess also, you know, I guess led to his downfall. But they were like, he was very persistent. People said that he was very persistent, right? So,
okay.
And the other thing is, he
didn't give in, like he didn't give up.
He wouldn't give in. He wouldn't give up. Like he would. So which combined it, like basically made him a good salesman, and that's, you know, him distributing. That was a big part of his, I guess, of what he was doing, and his skill was selling.
One thing I do know about him, sorry to interrupt you, but and maybe you can correct me, but from my understanding is his, like, I guess there goes him and his brother who started the company, right? Right. Miramax Films, and they started by just distributing films. So they would buy films that filmmakers made. They didn't have, you know, they had, I guess, no aspirations maybe, or they, at the beginning, for sure, weren't filmmakers themselves. They just simply were like, okay, how can we, you know, basically make money on, you know, on these films that already exist out there. That were kind of quiet, you know, these festival kind of films that...
Well, foreign films. First they started with foreign films.
Yeah, exactly. Foreign films, but also just, I guess, like, that's what I'm saying, these festival films that are, like, did well at festivals, but wouldn't get a wide distribution. And they basically would pick these films that were, in a way, you know, gems. They had an eye for it. They for sure had an eye, because they did pick films that, at the end of the day, you can't, you know, pretend like people like these films that they picked.
Yeah, but people didn't know how to make money.
Yeah, but I also... Okay, but I also heard that he himself, Harvey Weinstein, actually would go in and edit, or he would supervise the re-edit of all those films. So a lot of times the foreign filmmakers, or the you know, whatever, the filmmakers of those films weren't that happy because he told them to cut out these things or change the pacing or this and that. But supposedly he had a really good eye for that. So he would take these foreign films that maybe, you know, American audience wouldn't enjoy as much, re-edit it, you know, kind of package it better, and then sold it, and then these films would become hits. That's what I heard. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean, so he had a skill of taking foreign films that people thought he could not make money on in the United States, and he found a way to make money. So I did not realize he was like would get involved and he would re-edit those films, but that kind of makes sense, right? Yeah. His approach.
So I guess one thing you can right away then take as a lesson from this is that, you know, it doesn't matter how persistent you are, you still have to have some skills, I think, in the film industry, or something to offer, right? Because yeah, otherwise it's right.
Yeah. So I was the two skills I wanted to, or two character traits I wanted to, you know, point out are his persistence, and the other thing is like very high tolerance of risk, right? Like he did not care about breaking rules, and he did not care about
How
what
ironic.
people think. So
Yeah.
back, people who met, in the day when he was starting, they thought, okay, so that they saw it in a different light. Now that we know what he's been doing, for to women, we see it differently, those things, but you can see how those things can be very good, being
If they're
being
applied
able
in
to
the right thing.
deal with risk, right? And
Yeah.
they can destroy you, and they can ruin other people's lives. But I do think so. I think for me, those were like the key character traits that made him successful. Yes, again, his persistence and his high tolerance of risk. Because I do think like overall, when you look at being a producer or an entrepreneur, like when you have to lead, if you have to take something you have to be a leader, and you have to take something and basically create something out of nothing. When you are a business, because you can be a business person, or you can be somebody who who's part of a big machine, a big corporation, big company, and then you need different kinds of skills. But as a film producer or entrepreneur, you need to oftentimes you just like there's so much uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to have this basically, you have to convince people that this is possible, that when nothing exists, right? It's all just ideas. And those two character traits like persistence and just being okay with risk is a big thing. And then the third thing that that obviously anybody who's successful is that need to take action. Like when you hear advice from people, how do you succeed in business or anything, it's like, well, take action.
Yeah.
Because even if you take wrong action and worst case scenario, you're just going to learn about what not to do, right? Like you can learn maybe 1,000 things of not to do. It's still better than just kind of sitting and analyzing what you should do. I mean, planning is important and so on, but yeah, this guy was a go-getter. He was aggressive. He didn't care about the risk, about consequences. He just he went for it for what he wanted to achieve, and made him successful, but also ultimately has led to his downfall. Now, yeah. So
you would say, I guess those are the good qualities of Harvey Weinstein. I guess when he was applying them to filmmaking,
right?
Not so much when he was applying it to getting together with women. But so those are and I, I think I would agree in that sense that I think if you want to be successful, and this is like for every filmmaker out there, whether you're director, actor, producer, anything, you have to kind of, you have to be persistent. And like, being persistent, like if somebody turns you down for a job, like, like I always, love that story of Sylvester Stallone when he was trying to make, Rocky, and everybody turned him down, like literally. And then they got to a point where people actually liked his script, were willing to buy the script from him, and they paid him extra money just to walk away from it because they did not want him acting. But he basically set his goal on, no, I'm going to become a star actor by acting in this script that I wrote. And I'm only going to make this film, if I'm in it. And so he was so persistent, and it's so hard for, I know, I think most of us, especially when you have bad financial situation, when somebody offers you a big check, you're just going to be like, oh, all right, then you'll give in. Whereas that's what I mean, is that, Harvey Weinstein, when it comes to his filmmaking career, or, Sylvester Stallone, many other like successful people, that's what they have. They have a character where they don't give up at any circumstance. And I think you kind of have to be a little bit like that. You have to be a little crazy like that when everything else, especially your finances, maybe your family, your friends tell you, what are you doing? Why do you want to make films? You're broke and all, and you just kind of continue, and you're like, nope, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna succeed.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's being irrational, but you have to, again, be just very tolerant, like be okay with risk, and I think the way for me.
Well, okay, but risk is one thing, because it's risk is something like like when you do like a financial investment or something in a company. You look at there's a risk, but there's a like you kind of look at it like, well, but there's a big chance that this might work out and stuff. When you look at it like in the film industry, it's kind of almost seems like suicidal, you could say, as far as your career.
Well,
because it seems like all odds are against you, right?
But you put when you're doing these things, for example, you're a producer and trying to sell a project, and you're putting everything online on your career. You might have other career, other opportunities, your reputation, your money, maybe your relationships. So yeah, you're just you just being okay with accepting a high level of risk is like not caring about, I guess, not about the consequences or what's going to happen if you fail. Like you're not thinking about, oh my gosh, if I fail, this happens. So you're not thinking about that. But anyway, so the other thing is, so again, we kind of touched on other things that he was good at, right? We think.
Yeah, and then obviously bad things.
Right. Well, of course. But
can I ask you something then? So sort of interrupting again, but Lucas, do you know then of any? There's obviously many successful people in Hollywood or other industries, whatever, but many in Hollywood who are very successful, but yet seem they have completely different characteristic and thing. Do you still think that they, even though they might be completely different than Harvey Weinstein, they still have that one thing in common where they, like you said, like they're persistent and willing to take those risks?
Well, some people are persistent, and I think that's a common quality. Except like there's different ways you can be persistent.
Any specific people you can think of, though?
Not right now. Not at the top of my head. If you want to give some examples, you're welcome to. But I don't.
Yeah, let us know, guys.
But the thing is, anyway. So I do. Some people can be very quiet. Like they might not say much, but they'll stay focused. It doesn't matter whether a million people says one thing, but they'll still do what they think is right, even though they're not going to be shouting it out, or the way they come across, they're not going to be yelling at people, being aggressive. They will pursue their goals, right? So you can be a very nice person, very friendly to people, but you can still be like laser focused on your goals and not give up and be persistent with your goals, right?
Well, and I would say that brings me maybe to one thing that I wanted to say is that I think a very important quality in being able to succeed in Hollywood or any industry is you kind of have to have very thick skin. Like you can't get offended very easily, especially when you see in Hollywood. Like many people had to deal with this guy, and he wasn't the nicest, but it paid off for them. You could say it really paid off because they, like I said, he launched many careers, right? Many successful producers, directors, all that stuff. So I think having thick skin and being able to, even when somebody, I guess, calls you bad names or whatever, you just kind of take it and go smile and just keep on going, pursuing your goal, right?
You don't have to necessarily smile, but you shouldn't stop you in your tracks. This shouldn't stop you from pursuing what you want to do. I mean, like going back again, like pursuing, for example, these far-fetched goals, like becoming a major star. Is when is it irrational or not? You was mentioning maybe your family, friends are saying you are crazy. I think the main thing is the one way to judge it is like if you are what you're pursuing, if you really enjoy it, then like just if you can, like if you're not putting your survival in danger, then pursue it. Like pursue it. If you like the process itself is something you enjoy, then do it. Right? And it doesn't matter if it's like
because at the end of the day you live, and then your life's gonna be over, and then you're like, well, I was financially okay, but I didn't do anything I enjoyed, right? So
I like how Elon Musk puts it. Like he says, people ask him, say, so how could you try this company, that company? Like the chances of you succeeding were so small. He says, I mean, the way I looked at it was like success was one of the possibilities, of possible outcomes.
So what
he didn't try to say it's like, I mean, there's total failure or whatever, right? But he's saying he doesn't like when he was looking different, different.
That wasn't his goal, you mean?
No, when he was trying to decide should he do it or not, he thought the way he would do it is he was look, okay, can I succeed? Is there do I see a path of success, right? Like if I do this, is there a way? He says, yeah, there is a way. He doesn't do something because there's a 30% chance of succeeding, or maybe more than 50, so more likely to succeed than not. That's not how you use. Like he realizes many things he does are very unlikely to succeed, but there is a way to succeed. And then he's like, well, I want to try it. It's important to me, so I'm going to do it because there is a chance of success. So I'm going to try it, right? And then many times he succeeded, not always. But with Tesla, and then his it's the SpaceX, right? Or is it And so he's
SpaceX, I guess Tesla, and then Solar City. I think he's
Solar City. Yeah.
I mean, Elon Musk, to be honest, like he's like somebody who, I mean, amazes me at the fact that I think I heard him one time say he was applying, like I think before he started his own companies, he was applying to like some big like Silicon Valley companies, and he basically just got turned down. They said he wasn't qualified enough, so then he figured, well, nobody's gonna hire me, so I'm gonna create my own company. And that's what I mean, is like even when nobody would hire him, he was like, no, I'm just gonna do it. And now you see, obviously, he's very successful. So in hindsight, it's always easy to say, but
right. Yeah. So anyway, going back to Harvey Weinstein, so again, those are two attributes that I wanted to just focus on. But obviously, yeah, he had some skills that also made it possible for him to to succeed. Now, I wanted to say, yeah, because sometimes it's for sure, I don't want to saying that if you are persistent or super confident and you're pumped and you think you can do anything, that's going to be enough, right? And you're like willing
like
to risk everything.
I think you have to have skills too, right?
Right. So you have some skills, but I think, or sometimes that's the whole thing with talent and skill. I think like if you do things, enough times, then you can get good, like get average good, at at almost anything, any skill. So that's another thing. Maybe it's not like, because sometimes people thinking like stopping themselves from doing something that they want to do is like, well, but I'm not that good at it, right? And it's a big mistake, because you don't necessarily have to be like, if you have persistence and confidence,
you'll get
and
better
you
at
take action, and you're willing, and you're okay with failing, right?
Yeah.
Then I think then you'll succeed. Like in some way, you'll succeed in life. Let's say you'll succeed in life because the skills you need, which is, we always need some skills. You'll develop them. Like if you do them, you do things, you will develop them. And by taking action, that will give you feedback and saying, oh, I struck out. Why did I strike out? And you try it, and you learn this way. Now, but I wanted to kind of give another example of another producer who's nothing like like Harvey Weinstein in terms of abusing people. He's a nice guy and very successful producer, but he was also super confident when he came to Hollywood. And it's Brian Glazier. Okay. And he's got a producer with the spiky hair. That's kind of his trademark.
Okay. Yeah, he's done big films.
He won Oscar for Beautiful Mind, and he's worked a lot on Ron Howard movies. He's produced them. So super. He makes movies that I really enjoy and have a lot of respect for him. But he's like very confident, very smart, very confident guy, right? And so I heard him say in an interview that when he got to Hollywood, young, he thought he could do anything, right? Hot shot, right? But then things were not happening, right? And then he was actually got good advice from other producers, more established, right? And they told him, okay, yeah, you've got the personal makeup and the confidence to do well here in this business, in this city, but you need to have some skills, right? Like you need to have some skills to offer to get started, right? It can be, and they said, well, the most useful thing is to write. So even though he wasn't like really a writer, he said, well, write something, right? Mm-hmm. And then you can leverage that, and then you can, actually start growing your career as a producer. Eventually, as a producer, you can get to a level where you don't even have to write. Like you saying, "I believe in this project is enough." Like just picking the talent, like picking people, just bringing a creative team together will be enough. But at the beginning, when you're starting, well, you're Brian Glazier and nobody knows you. So you have it's just like anybody, right? You're not going to get a chance, right? So you have to have some skills to offer other than just having the confidence, right? So yeah, but again, as we said, like I think where people fail is like that in these areas where it's very risky, there's so much uncertainty, it's so easy to just give up, say, okay, this is not going to work. What sets people apart from people who succeed from those who don't succeed is the confidence and just being okay with failing and not caring that what people think, how people see you. It's like, I think that's like the mental part is probably the most important factor, right, in success. So yeah, those are my words of wisdom for today. Just found it like. Because okay, if you guys want to succeed in Hollywood as a producer, don't be like Harvey Weinstein in any way, I guess.
I would say in the when it comes to pursuing your own kind of selfish goals of basically getting sex from women, but like we mentioned, there's some great qualities he has, and I think he shares those qualities are shared by many other great people who don't use those. Like I said, like that perseverance, not kind of being able to take those risks, not caring too much about other people's opinion. Those are great things when you're using them, in the right direction, right?
And if you can combine it with treating everybody well and being honest with people, then I think I think that's the you'll make your life easier and make your life more enjoyable, your work more enjoyable.
And you know what? I would actually say that, like you were talking about the whole balance of, like, I guess, how important, I guess, the skill versus having this perseverance and stuff. And I'll tell you this. I think, obviously, like I mentioned, you have to have some kind of skill. Like, without, you have to have something you offer, right, in this industry or any industry you're trying to succeed in. So, like I said, Harvey Weinstein had that. I think he was able to pick out these gems and re-edit them and, make these films, even more marketable to a wider audience. And so I think you have to have that skill. So whether it's that, or, you're a good writer, a good actor, director, whatever it is, those, maybe you create nice visuals with the camera. You have to have that skill. But like Lucas also said, the more you do something, right? If you just love it, it's your passion, you do it. You might not be great at it. You might not be the best, but you're going to be one of the top if you just keep on doing it. It's just, practice makes perfect. But that's why, to be able to continue doing it and to be able to get more chances to do it and work with more people and cool projects, you have to be very perseverant and yeah, I don't want to say cocky, but you have to kind of have, outwardly you can be a very humble person, but inside you got to be really confident in yourself. Because like I said, it's like somebody might turn you down, especially at the beginning. Somebody might say, your work is shit, whatever. They might trash you, and you just got to be kind of, okay, well, I think I'm pretty good, and I know I'm going to get even better, so whatever. I don't really care what you think. You just have that sort of, I would say, thought in your head. And as long as you go with that mindset, you'll succeed. Because on the flip side, I've met many, I know some filmmakers who are very talented, like super, like literally, you see that what they can, the kind of skills that they have, and I go, wow. And I sometimes, when I would meet these people, I would go, like, why aren't you, in Hollywood? Why aren't you making these, big budget projects? But then you get to know them, and you see that they're very doubtful, very, kind of, basically they don't have this positivity and this belief in themselves. And because of that, even though they're incredibly talented, and I'm telling you, I met some really talented people, that's, I think, the reason why they don't succeed is because they just don't never push that hard. They think to themselves, okay, I don't know, I've tried hard enough, but it's, whatever, this happened or that or whatever, or, and that's what I'm saying. It's like you can see those character traits, whereas all the successful people I've seen, I mean, like people who are, like, I remember, like, I met, he's a pretty successful producer, Adi Shankar. And he also, as far as I know, he started in Hollywood, like without knowing anybody. And I remember that, like, when I met him, it was like right away, face to face talking to him, I just thought to myself, the first thought was, he's a weirdo. And if Addy's watching this, he's
not a conventional Hollywood producer.
And like, because he, when he does these interviews and he's got this weird makeup and stuff, that's pretty much how I saw him when I met him. And I thought to myself, damn, this guy's basically he's a weirdo, he's a freak. But then, talking to him, even though there was some weird little things he said or thing, at the end of the day, I saw that as different as his personality was from anybody else that I met up to that point, one thing he had in common is, again, he never even spoke in terms of like, well, if we do this, or, we could succeed. No, he was like, we're going to do this. We're going to succeed. We're going to, like, he was saying things like as if it was a matter of fact, as if it already happened. He wasn't, so even just the way somebody carries themselves, the tone of voice and stuff, you can kind of see that. And you see that in people who are successful, and I'm assuming even before they become successful, if you knew them.
And can I cut in?
Yeah.
And like, one of the things is why, I totally agree with, and it makes sense, like, why people like that succeed. Because one of the things, like, if you try to do something by yourself, you can fail because you might lack the skills, right? But like in a project as a producer, you're bringing people together, so you don't need to have all the skills, right? Like, people will fill in the skills that are necessary. So if you think about it, like, just in general, like, if you want to succeed in anything, like, if you bring enough people together, people with the right skills, it will be accomplished. Like, it will be difficult to argue that we, like, as people, cannot accomplish something if we work together towards a common goal, right? Like, if we agree on something, like, majority of people, sometimes it can be, for some smaller problems, might be 100 people, maybe 5 people, depends. But in general, if you take people together, and have people working for the same goal, there's almost nothing that cannot be achieved given enough time, right? Or resolved given enough time. Like, the problem is for most of the time we are not working together at all, or sometimes like being passive, or we work against each other. That's what gets us in trouble. So in a way, like it's totally makes so much sense when a producer who is a leader thinks in the sense that, yeah, we're going to succeed. Because why? I think it's very logical, because why wouldn't you succeed if it's just a matter of bringing the right people together? Then you can accomplish anything. Like, why wouldn't you? Like, give me an example of what we cannot achieve. Like, it'll be difficult, right? And especially given enough time. But in terms of like having a successful film, yeah, well, it's not like you're not doing something so difficult. So as long as you bring talented people together, you'll succeed, right? I think, and that makes sense. Like, it's logical, but in a way, few of us actually operate like that, because we all have all these doubts, right? And then as a leader, though, that's the main thing. You need to have have the confidence that it's just a matter of just finding the right kind of people and just having that group of people working for the same goal. And if you do that, you'll succeed.
Yeah, and also, like I said, it's that's why I think having those qualities of being persistent and all that stuff and being in a powerful position can be a great thing if it's just used the right way. Like one story I love personally, maybe some of you heard about it, is like kind of like, basically about Henry Ford, right, who pretty much started the car industry with his Model T. Like, once he became, just even to get to that point, he obviously had to have the right outlook and persistence and all that stuff. And by the way, this is a guy who was not like educated. He was I don't even think he finished elementary school. Like, he literally was as simple as it gets. But he just was very, persistent, and he just enjoyed doing what he basically what he created. And he got better at it also. Like, he literally just kept on trying and experimenting with all these things about cars and machinery. And then even once he succeeded, the interesting story, at that point he had money, he had power, so he was able to bring really smart people together and had them basically working for him. And there was a story basically where they were trying to improve the engine, because was self-starting, all that stuff, have to crank it, and a few other things, basically, so the engine was more reliable. And he decided that they were going to redesign the engine and build it differently than, because up to that point, I believe the engines were kind of modeled on steam engines back in the day. So they kind of decided to, rebuild the combustion engine and make it more, like I said, more durable and all that stuff. And his ideas, he had some rough ideas, but he obviously didn't know how to succeed at it. But the story is that he basically would come every morning at a meeting, with his engineers, and he would tell them what he wants and what kind of power output and, weight to power ratio, all that stuff he would explain to them. And the engineers would just look at him and tell him, but that's not possible. Like, it's just not possible physically. And he's like, all right, guys, that's great. So let's get to work. And then he would walk away. And the next day he'd come in, and then they were like, well, we were thinking about it, but it's just not possible. He's like, all right, guys, well, I know you can do it. Just keep on working. And these guys had nothing else to do, because they just, they were getting paid to sit there and think of these ideas. So when even these engineers, very smart people themselves, would probably otherwise walk away from it, the only reason why they didn't is because they were getting paid and told, well, just do it, just keep on working on it. So those people themselves would walk away. Henry Ford, you can see, had that character, perseverance, where he was like, nope, we're gonna just keep on working until we get it. And obviously in that position of power, you can see how power can be used to a good thing, and money and all that stuff. So
he could take a long-term, approach, whereas most people just go day to day. That's the problem,
I guess, yeah. And he just kept on thinking, and sure enough, they've reached a breakthrough. It was like a little initial breakthrough, and then eventually that led to basically kind of what we have, like now that we have the modern, combustion engines, and kind of now you can see Elon Musk is taking the next step, with the electric cars and all that stuff. So there's always been people like that who. Because I've been seeing in some of the comments here, people fighting. Also, don't get into politics, guys, please, because it just doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, but people cannot help. People cannot help themselves.
Yeah, so. I know. There's the second you mention politics, like I'm for this or that, it's people like people who could otherwise agree on things and be best friends even suddenly turn against each other. So just don't get into that kind of stuff. But but it's good that you're having maybe disagreements about certain things. But yeah.
I just was going to say how dangerous it is in terms of like the political arguments. And I read this article that people are less tolerant of people of different political views than of like different race or different anything culture. People are, people, we are more tolerant of of those different terms of race and so on, than which we think we are tolerant. We think we are not tolerant enough, and I don't think in general, I don't think we are tolerant enough of races and other cultures. But we are more tolerant in those aspects than when it comes to being tolerant of other people's political views. So shows you how dangerous it is. We cannot, which makes no sense totally. But yeah. So it's a minefield with politics, and would be good to. I mean, it's hard. I know people. It's hard, but it's good to be able. It's good to be okay to let people, let people express themselves, their views, and I guess not really get into like attacking each other's character.
Yeah,
and
or because whatever somebody's saying. Like one thing that like I said, I don't want today's show to be about the sexual whatever, all that stuff that Harvey Weinstein did, because it's whatever. Who needs to talk about it? He did it. It's bad. Obviously, I think majority of people.
It needs to be talked about. It's just I don't think we need to talk
No,
about
I'm saying it for us on our show, right? That's not what our show is about. But one thing that I will add to it is that one thing that just kind of almost makes me laugh is seeing how people, whether they have different political whatever sites that they cling on to or whatever other things, they use a bad thing like this that happens, a scandal, and then they basically try to use it almost to prove their point, like political point and stuff. So that's what I'm saying is like don't get into it. But yeah, I think so. Like I said, power. Also like being in a powerful position like this guy was, I think can also be used for good things. It's just if you direct it in the right way. So I think that's one thing to keep in mind. So don't think like, because I've seen some people writing that like the powerful and the rich are always going to screw over the other people, and I don't think that. Like I said, we usually hear those bad stories, but there's so many rich powerful people who don't do that. So it really comes down to personality, and like I said, there's many people who, like somebody said about Howard Hughes, and saying that he inherited all these millions from his father and all that stuff, and that was his way to get in, but he actually achieved things. I mean, he really propelled aviation, did other things. And was he a womanizer? Was he a crazy guy? I guess. I'm not going to get into it because it's speculation at this point. I guess people who were there, who knew him, I guess they can talk about it better than me. But one thing I can admit is whether he was horrible in his personal life, he did some amazing things for us that we all take advantage of right now, right? When it comes to aviation and travel.
It's also debatable whether being in a rich family helps you. Like,
because
in obvious way it helps you. But think about many rich parents. They think that some took actually the steps of limiting the wealth of their children, how much wealth they pass on, because they realize like if you are
incentive, right? When you have all the money in the world, it takes incentive.
Takes incentive. Well, we have and the other thing is like it's just so easy to be comfortable. I mean, like it's so easy just if you have money, even like somebody who just came from nothing, but you get a certain level and you have a comfortable life, right? And maybe you were very ambitious when you had nothing, but then you just become comfortable and the drive stops because you're comfortable, and which is okay. I mean, which is okay to enjoy.
It's okay.
Always to be successful.
But you know what? I think
at the same time, you can see people who succeed are hungry, for success. Like they're always driven, and part of it though is it's because they enjoy the work. Like I mean, part of it is like. If you enjoy your work and you have millions, you still continue working because you enjoy the work, right? It does, even though like there's no longer the motivation, the drive to succeed. But I mean, in terms of like one thing I'll say for kids of rich parents is that like if you're son, daughter of somebody who's super successful, won Oscars, is like treated, seen as a genius. We all compare ourselves to our parents, and it is kind of, I imagine,
that can be a bad thing,
but it's like you always being seen as the son, daughter of that person. Like when people introduce you and so on, and it's difficult. And how do you achieve, like if your father found cure for some big disease, like how do you have a life where you feel like I contributed too? Because the thing is, we always compare everything like relatively to other people, right?
Yeah.
And it's great to be in a rich family, and it opens up a lot of doors to you. At the same time,
if you don't get too comfortable, right? At
the same time, it's not like there is some,
I'll tell you this, like
it's not a guarantee of success. Let's say that. It's not a guarantee of success, because you see most
can help
kids of rich people, they get into trouble, right?
Yeah, and that's what I would say is that it just, I think having more money is, it allows you to just do more things. So you have more options, but again, you can make the right options and the wrong options. Like, I know one time I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was saying like, oh, right now, if you just got $50 million, what would you do? And first thing I said, oh, I would go and, just go relax on the beach. But I know, and I know this because I've done it already. Like at the beginning of this year, I went to South America and we just relaxing on the beach basically for 3 months with my wife. But after like a month and a half, I was like getting bored. I'm like, I got to do something. So I ended up, meeting up with other filmmakers and shot a music video there, then shot another little video on like little projects because I just, after too much relaxing, for me at least, I was just getting bored. Like, relaxing on the beach and all that stuff is great, but not when you do it every day. It's honestly thing. So I also think that like, if I was in that position, I would enjoy it. I'm sure we all would. But I think also, majority of us, or at least the people who are more driven, would be like, okay, enough is enough. Let me actually do something now, like accomplish. And actually, like I said, take on difficult tasks, right? It's just that the money just makes it more, it gets more comfortable for you to do those things, or lets you, hire other people, maybe smarter people than you, that you collaborate. So again, I think power is not the bad thing. It just depends on how you use it. And to be successful, I think, in Hollywood, Lucas,
be persistent, be confident, and just pursue what's important to you and what you enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. Because you only got that one life to live. So should we get into submissions today? Because we've been blabbing away.
It's very late. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll just open up some questions, whether it's technical questions or anything, guys.
So you know what, Lucas? Maybe you can look through the questions, see what's thing, and I'll just play the first submission. We'll see how it goes. Okay. So this one is from David Duckworth. And it is, where do we have it here? He was the director of photography, editor, colorist. And it's a music video titled Damned by the Hook Line Shakers. And he basically was low budget. He shot it on the Blackmagic cinema camera 4K. So it's a very affordable camera, a little older now, but still does a lot of good things. And this was, I'm guessing, done in New Zealand, he says here. At least he's from New Zealand, South Island Media Company. So anyways, here's the video. Let me just put up the audio so you guys can hear that too. And enjoy it. So maybe I'll kind of talk about the video. And again, you guys want to watch the full videos, it's all always, the links are provided in the description. I think there's a lot of cool shots here. Like I like these kind of shots here with the bed. You can see there's nice texture, the different use of gels, the close-ups. I would just say it's like overall nice video. And I like these close-ups here where you can see just, fill in the screen with something that just looks interesting. So nice dramatic lighting. What I don't like, and I think where the video kind of, the quality of it just gets just kind of reminds us that it's a lower budget, is it's just one shot literally, and we'll see if he ends up cutting here again to this shot. But like you see the close up here of the drums, like always fill your screen, like kind of look at the framing and see what you're putting in the frame, and only put things that are interesting looking, that there's something, I mean, it just doesn't look boring. And so these performance shots I like, but basically there was this, I don't know if there's one here at the end, I don't see it anymore, but there's here basically right off the bat, like at the beginning, I'll just rewind, you can see this little performance shot where here, this one, I'm just not a fan of that one shot. It just kind of, everything about the shot screams indie, kind of low budget production. And what I mean by that is the lighting's still interesting. If you just literally punched in closer like you did in the close-up shots, then it just looks more interesting. But you see, you leave all this frame with just empty walls. It just seems like there's this door there behind them, and then it's just I don't know. This doesn't. It's not, the angle's not interesting. The frame is not interesting. So that's like the one thing I was like, because otherwise the quality of the footage, the camera, the compression, the color grading, everything's nice. So those are the kind of things I would say you definitely want to be aware of when you're working. And this could be even just fixed in editing. You literally just don't include those shots when you see them, because it's okay sometimes you get a bad looking shot, but like I said, just be aware of what you include in your final thing. Maybe I'll quickly jump into one more submission here. Next one is from Fisehatsion Nibret, I believe that's how you pronounce it. And it is, it's also, it's like a, well, no, actually, no, this one's not a music video. This is a film. And let's just quickly kind of give you the, so Fisehatsion he's the director of photography, editor, basically, producer, did it all by himself. Short documentary that he's basically basically planning to turn this into a bigger, like a full-length documentary. It's a story about a little kid, which again I'm not going to show you the whole thing. It's from Ethiopia, but just watch it, and yeah, if you guys like it, then you can always watch the full thing afterwards by following the link below.
ትምህርት ቤቱ የመንግስት ነው። የመንግስት ትምህርት ቤት ላይ ያስከፍላል። በአመት አንዴ 200 ብር ነው ያስከፍላል። ያቺን 200 ብር እንዳይከፍሉ ብዙ እኔም ደግሞ እንድማር አይፈልጉም። በዛ ምክንያት ነው ወደ ጎዳና የወጣኸው? አዎ። ከዛ አንድ ቀን ትምህርት ቤት ሄጄ ከዛ የትምህርት ቤት ክፍያ ሌሎቹ ከፍለው ጨርሰዋል። አንተ ለምን አከፍልም ሲባል እከፍልልሃለሁ፣ ስራ ሄደዋለሁ፣ ወደ ስራ ናቸው በልተዋል። ሄጄ እንደዛ ብዬ ገባሁ። ለዛን ቀን ተመልሰን ስራ ሄደዋል ብለህ ግባ አሉ። ስራ ሄደዋል ስል ውጣለሁ። ጆሮዬን ይዘው አስወጡኝ። ከዛ ትምህርት ሰፈር ሄጄ ዩኒፎርሜንም ደብተሬንም አስቀምጬ ጨዋታ ሰፈር ላይ ስጫወት አንተ ምንም የትምህርት ቤት አትባልም፣ የጨዋታ ልምድ ስላለ ነው መጥተህ ትምህርትን ፎርፈህ መጥተህ እዚህ የምትወዝነው አሉኝ። እዛ አንድ ቀን ከዚህ ከማዶ ከዚህ ወደ ማዶ ሰፈር ማዶ እኛ ማዶና ማዶ አለ። እዛ ከዚህኛው ማዶ ልጅ
So I'll tell you guys right away, again, watch the whole thing if you're interested, but there's nice shots. Like I actually like this shot here, when he had the candle on, it just makes it look kind of a mix of daylight, and the candlelight looks interesting, even though you're in these horrible locations, right, like under a bridge here. And so there were some interesting angles. To me, it's just, it kind of just gets boring very quickly because you stay too long on one shot. It doesn't matter how nice a shot is. If you stay on it for too long, it's a thing. So this kind of B-roll shot, he should be cutting to it quicker, just getting more of these B-roll shots. So, as the kid is talking, you're kind of seeing more of these, like you can see, there's some interesting B-roll shots, but that would be my, I guess, the main critique about it. Again, simple in a way thing that you can fix in editing. So keep that in mind. Editing is very powerful. Lucas, you want to get into some questions?
Yeah, I have. I think. We have a question I wanted to address, and then maybe that will be enough for today. But
yeah.
So here from Joe's Mike, he's asking for recommendations for audio gear for like really low budget, for a student. I sent him a link for to the audio gear that you recommend in general, which is not really like very expensive, but I guess it can be even there are cheaper options. And I was thinking about
on our kit.com page, right? I actually put a kit for audio gear. Like that's like I think all you need to record good audio. So you can check that out too.
Yeah, but that one is maybe because we recommend the Zoom, one of the Zoom recorders, right? And then a shotgun mic like Rode NTG4 Plus, or maybe the older models. That was the NTG2, right? But is there anything that you can mention that's even cheaper? Any other solution? Like what I'm thinking about is this week we're going to be releasing review of an ASDEN microphone, which is like an on-camera microphone, but you can use it as on a boom. Maybe that's a good option.
Yeah, actually, that is a thing. It's the there's a new ASDEN mic that's meant for professional cameras, kind of like mounting it on a Hatcher mount or something, culture mount on top of your camera. That has a shock mount in it, has a windscreen, and it's basically a directional shotgun microphone. But it's just a little bit more, basically shorter, more compact because it has to fit on the camera. I think it's a great mic. I've tested it. I'm going to show you guys you guys can basically in the video when it comes out this week, you can listen to the quality. But like Lucas said, you can use it right on your camera, but that doesn't mean you can't also use it on on like a boom. It's just you accept standard XLR connection, requires phantom power, which all those XLR pretty much recorders are going to have. And it's a great budget mic that you can again use on your camera or use it as a standalone microphone. So that's probably the one way to go.
In terms of getting like a wired lav mic, because wired lav mics are pretty affordable, right?
Aputure makes Aputure makes one, right? That's like that you used, I believe. Then you can use it with your iPhone, Android, whatever. Like you can basically, it's you just plug it into any device that has a 3.5mm jack, or it can also work with cameras, right? Like DSLRs and stuff, because it's switchable from TRRS, right, to TRS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to post here link in our chat for where we did review like these affordable wired lav mics.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of having lav or this like a boom mic or on-camera mic adapted to a boom, which one would you recommend?
That you attach it. You want to mean a wireless
transmitter? Like would it be better? If you used to get one microphone, would you recommend he gets a lav mic? He's going to get more use out of a wired lav mic, or would it be better to get like that ASDEN microphone?
No, I think a shotgun mic, because because you can always point it and you can get stuff from the distance, but you can always just bring it closer, right? Whereas with the lav, I mean, it's only kind of good for picking up things very close to the mic, because it's very, like I said, it's designed to only pick up things close to the mic, and it's also not very directional. It kind of picks up from all directions. So it's I think lavs have their use, but they're not good for everything. Whereas shotgun, I think, is more usable. You can use it for interviews. You can use it for kind of a film style shooting and stuff.
So it's better to. So anyway, this week we're going to come out with that review of that ASDEN mic, and we'll have more information about that. But that's probably like if you want to go really low budget and having something like that, it's I'll mention quickly it's the ASDEN SGM 250CX Pro. That might be, we think it's a pretty good option. But yeah, we have all the recommendations, all the gear that we actually use, which is not like super expensive stuff. We have it on kit.com/Tomentos, right?
Yeah.
And also on our gear page on our website, Tomentos Films, and we have recommendations for almost everything when it comes to filmmaking gear.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Maybe let me get through, because it's I'll just quickly kind of I know we're 6 minutes over, but we started at 6 minutes past, so I'll quickly get into just kind of again through the submission. So if you guys want submissions for for next week, just you have info for where you submit all the stuff in the description. This one submitted to us by Randy Johnston, and he was a director, colorist, and other. He says, and he says, what is it? He's It's a metal band from New Delhi, India. And it's a music video for their upcoming album that releases on October 30th. And he's just looking for criticism on the cinematography. So let's check it out. Let's see here. Just make it full screen here for you guys and enjoy it.
Expressions of my life, of her being, shall fade buried in the land.
So I like the visuals. I'm guessing it's not a performance music video, so we're not gonna see the band or anybody, but the visuals are really nice, and I like the use of like this kind of underexposed kind of low light photography, even though it's filmed outside. So yeah, nice shots. Maybe for me, just like there was maybe too many of those like nature kind of shots at the beginning. Just I kind of wanted to see. Or just basically maybe speed up the editing a little bit better. But I do like this kind of, in a way, the color grade, how everything has the kind of a cyan, kind of a bluish, greenish kind of tone. So I do like that, actually. And like I said, it's kind of low key where you almost can't see it, things going into shadows, but it's just enough. It creates definitely a nice mood. So yeah, great, I think, great music video. Let me see here. I believe we have one last submission. I'll just kind of quickly go through it again. And where is this? One's from James Toney. And here it is. It's a documentary. I believe it's Reverend James Toney that he submitted. And it's an older documentary about what is it? A boxer. Yeah, well, I'll let you guys watch it again. If you guys want to watch the full project, just follow the link in the description.
Another week-long tournament, and this time I have a shot to become a world champion. Now, to be able to participate in the sport of Olympic-style boxing at my age is a blessing, and I'm thanking the Lord every day for my title shot. But I just want to say that I'm scared, but I'm confident, and I know I can do it. So your prayers are with me. I believe in God, so if everybody's praying for me that I won't get hurt that bad, then I'm going to get in there, and I'm going to be the next world heavyweight champion of the Masters Boxing Division for USA Boxing. So that's what I'm doing, and next time when you see me, I'll have this international championship belt, but I'm also going to have the world championship. This is an athlete's breakfast. Before I go out running.
So again, it's a much longer video, so we're not gonna get into the whole thing. But right off the bat, just simply talking about from a technical point of view, it's obviously been shot with a really old camera. You can just see it in the quality, or at least it was uploaded in really low quality. And the audio, you could hear there how much a good microphone, like even just having a good directional microphone would have helped, because the audio was pretty horrendous. You could hear dogs barking, the wind, everything all around there. So definitely those are things to pay up, because if you want people to pay attention to a story and what people are talking about, you kind of want to mute out all the other sounds. You want to hear just the person talking. But I'll actually tell you, like, I kind of had a chance to watch a bit of it before the show. It's an interesting story. So, you know, sometimes if you have a really good story and that's the only camera you have and equipment, and just at least grab a camera and record it and tell that story to your audience, because sometimes, you know, there's stories that need to be told. So again, if you guys are interested in seeing the story, again, follow the link in the description of the video. So I think that's it for the show, right, Lucas? Anything else?
Correct myself, because I was talking about the producer Brian Grazer, the producer who won the Oscar for A Beautiful Mind. So yeah, his last name is Grazer, not Glazer. I was adding an L, so Brian Grazer.
Okay.
Yeah, just wanted to correct myself.
Oh, okay. All right, that's it, right? Any other last words of advice, Lucas? If you want to succeed in Hollywood?
Yeah, no, in terms of, like, I encourage you guys to submit, you know, your videos, right? If you want to. So some person asked whether the submission is free. Of course, I'm surprised by a question like that. So
yeah,
but yeah, for sure, we want to show your videos, and because we can all learn from them, and so
yeah.
You know,
and I also do add to it that it doesn't have to be that you're submitting because you want us to critique it. Like, sometimes people just submit it because they don't ask for any criticism or opinion. They just literally want to show, you know, to have a chance to show it to another audience. Like, same reason why you go to film festivals. You know, there's many film festivals people submit where you're not going to win anything, but you're going there because there's an audience there, right? And you know, most film festivals on average, they're not going to pack more than 50 people in a movie theater. And you're going to get that kind of a bigger audience on our channel. So you're definitely going to get the exposure. So if you have a project, whether it's a trailer for your film or whatever it is, that's something cool. Maybe you're even doing, I don't know, trying to, you know, crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, and you just want to show off the trailer for your film, and at the end, you know, little, you know, direct people to go there. I have no problem with it. We're here to help you guys. So again, just draw attention to your project, and or if you just simply want our opinion or help on something, then again, you can do it. So many different reasons why, and again, like Lucas said, you don't have to pay for it. It's just simply submit interesting things, and we're gonna, whenever we have opportunity on the show, we'll show it, right, Lucas?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so I think that's it.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us, and
have
till next week.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.